So next, we invite Brian to lead us through exposure pathway mitigation measures.
All right, thanks, Liz. So yep, we're just going to give a quick update. A lot of it's kind of repetitive if in terms of regs, what Liz and Paul presented at LSPA training. And so this, we're just focusing on active exposure pathway mitigation measures, and this is specific to the vapor intrusion issue. Next slide, Liz. All right, so just a couple things to highlight. There's the registration for remote monitoring for the telemetry for these APM systems is now kind of formalized in the regulations. There really isn't much of a change in terms of the process that we've been using, but that it was really described in the regulations. So that's the new section there, 40.1027. And then I'll just describe the process real quickly. That link below that bullet point there is the registration form. And so as has been done since we started this program, you fill out that form, that sends an email to us. We then communicate to the person listed in the contact of that form, ask them to do a shutdown restart test of their system to show that it's communicating with us. And then once we get that communication, we will send them an email and say their registration is all set. And I did just want to point out that in 40.1027, it does say DEP will provide written confirmation that registration is complete, and just that written confirmation is the email that you will receive from the bwc.apm email box saying your registration is complete. All right, so then a couple other updates in 1025, actually 1025 and 1026. They're kind of similar sections. One's for permanent solutions, and then one is for temporary solutions and ROS. So both of those sections, as opposed to, they are asking for people to establish a vacuum range for their system. So whatever that operating range that the SSD needs to be at to maintain the negative pressure field under the slab to prevent vapor intrusion, we're just asking to kind of formalize that range and put it in the operating regimen so that people, future property owners, can understand how to run the system. And also, we've presented this before, we're asking people to monitor the pressure of the vacuum level of the system as opposed to monitoring the, previously people were monitoring the electrical power of the fan. And we did have some instances where the electrical power to a fan may have still been active. So it was still connected, but the fan seized up and it wasn't actually working. So monitoring the vacuum is a better indicator that the system is actually working. And then in addition, we're asking people to put their alerts, again, on that vacuum range, using that vacuum range when the system goes out of that vacuum range and when it comes back in. So when it goes out, that'll be your shutdown, and when it comes back in, that'll be your restart. And a lot of these systems that exist now are currently doing this. There are some that aren't, so it may be changed for those, but a lot of them are. And then if you have achieved a permanent solution prior to March 1st, as it indicates here in 1025.3D6, you've already achieved a permanent solution and you already have a telemetry system operating and installed, and that was based on the regulations at the time you achieved your permanent solution. Those alerts can be based on either the vacuum or the system shutdown and restart. All right, next slide, Liz. So a couple additional things, and these are specific to the annual certifications. So for those RTNs that have a permanent solution with an APM, there was a requirement, existing requirement for an annual certification. DEP would send out a letter requesting that to the property owner and requesting that they certify a couple things. There previously were 4 bullet points that people were certifying to. There was a 5th bullet point added in the 2024 amendments. And so that's in 40.1025.8B. And that the property owner certifying that they are aware of their obligation to notify DEP and any non-transient building occupants if the APM is down for 30 or more consecutive days. That language was actually in the standard obligations and conditions of the AUL previously. So we just thought it would be appropriate to move it into the annual certification since it's in the AUL, just to bring it out in the annual certification, make sure the property owners are aware of their obligations. And then a new section also here we added 40.10.25.9. So again, this is only applicable to APMs operating as a permanent solution. And so that regulation was added, and it basically says DEP can request that the owner of the building do a shutdown restart test to demonstrate that the remote monitor is working. It's written as a written request by MassDEP, and then that building owner can respond to it. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but we can go to the next slide here, Liz. All right, so just again, kind of an update on where we're at in terms of how many sites are out there. Again, these are specific to the vapor intrusion. So how many sites are out there? We can see on the left, the regional breakdown, the overwhelming majority at 103 are in Nero, 31 in Southeast, 12 out in Western, and 22 in Central. And then kind of the breakdown of where they are in the MCP on the right there, 68 permanent solutions. And so those are, again, which would require the annual certification, 24 ROS, 42 in temporary solution, and then 34 in other. Those others, again, I assume that's their path to closure. They're probably just implementing the telemetry, as they're moving through the system. Maybe they put it in as an IRA action and are now moving through the MCP process. Next slide, Liz. Okay, so just a recap of what we did in 2023 in terms of the annual certifications. So MassDEP issued 63 requests for annual certifications. Again, those are the sites that have achieved a permanent solution with an APM and have an AUL. So we sent letters out to 63 property owners. We got back 60 signed certifications. So that's, I think, a pretty good response rate there. Took a little effort, but we got them back. All of the letters that we sent out as a request to the property owner and then the signed certifications that we received back are up on EDEP and can be looked at on the searchable sites database. Getting a little background noise.
Oh, me too.
So obviously, we sent out 63 requests. We only got 60 back. Those remaining 3 RTNs kind of are in different stages of the audit or enforcement.
Oops.
You muted me, Liz.
So if you look at the, do you have a copy of the flyer?
You need
Okay.
to look that
There
person. Oh, she did.
I think we got them. All right. So yeah, the remaining 3 RTNs that we didn't get back, signed certifications, they're in different stages of audit enforcement, and we're proceeding with those. All right, next slide, Liz. Okay, so now I'm just going to present our plan of what we're doing this year. So again, we're going to plan to issue those requests. It's an annual certification that's required. So now we saw on the previous slide, I said there were 68 permanent solutions. So we'll issue 68 letters to property owners. And what we did, we'll do the same. We're planning to do that in March, hopefully. And we'll probably use the same procedure, which worked well last year. We sent them both out via email if we had an email address for the property owner. And then we also sent them out regular mail. Everyone got it regular mail, even if we had an email address. And then just, obviously, if we didn't have an email address, we sent them regular mail. It really seemed like email worked and helped us get a response. I talked about the new language in 1025 8B So that fifth bullet point will be in that letter. And so that'll just be an additional thing that the property owner is certifying to. And I also mentioned the new provision in 1025-9. So that's MassDEP can request a shutdown restart test of the system to see that the telemetry is working. So our plan is to include that in this annual certification. So we're going to request that the property owners do a shutdown restart test, provide that documentation on the annual certification form, and then send that back to us. We can then verify that we are receiving the notifications. We've just seen a couple instances where property transfers have happened and the new owners may not be operating the system, the telemetry system, or may not be receiving notifications, or we got dropped off the list. So this again is just to ensure that everyone, including the department, owners and operators, are getting information when that system is down. Just obviously that system was put in for a reason, to protect vapor intrusion, and we want to make sure it's still operating. And I think, is that my last slide, Liz? I think it is.
Yes,
So
it is.
I'll see if there are any questions.
Yeah, Brian, you had one question from Matt Hackman. I don't know if you see it in the chat.
I see it. Yeah, so Matt says he has a former SVE now converted to an APM. So he's going to refer to that as an APM in reports from now on. I guess that would be correct. I mean, if that's what the system is doing, if it's now, previously it was an SVE system treating a source, and now it's turned into more of the source treatment is done and it's preventing vapor intrusion into a building, then I think, yeah, it would be considered an APM.
Is there another question that just came in?
You got that, Brian? It just said it relieves.
Oh.
It was just an explanation, Liz. It's just, that so we're no longer having to meet the 95% removal requirements for SVE air discharge.
There are other requirements
Yeah.
for okay. All right.
I think that's right, Matt. That was a clarification in the remedial air discharge section of the regulations.
All right.
Okay.